There is so much that's in your life that's full. It's right in front of you. But no, you're caught in the future, thinking about what it has to be if it doesn't go well. And instead of just coming into this moment. You don't need to understand what's going on, but your brain wants to. You're tricked by it because the brain is playing out all this theater. It's taking all the knowledge that you've accumulated in memory, and it's looking to make sense of everything. But what if you were willing to be wrong? What if you, in every moment, woke up into, I'm coming out of this dream of all these concepts that I hold on reality. I'm laying down the sort of download onto reality. What if I just, I'm going to open the curtain to the window. I'm going to look at what's out there. What would you notice? You would notice there's a distance, like logs of a fire, right? The distance in the logs, you're over here, it's over there, the flame burns higher. There's something very cool about standing in a different place in the room when you're not identified, when you're not looking through the ego, you're not looking through the imposed knowledge, you're not looking through your shadows or impurities on what you're relating with. And the interior condition of you changes. The walls come down. The latent possibilities in you start to prevail. Because you're renouncing your need to be tripped up by thoughts. And thoughts are not the enemy. It's like salt in the sink, right? You have the sink water there and you throw the salt in it. So if you're fearful about something's coming, right, you can accept the fear. You can acknowledge the fear. You can be with it. Ask it what it wants. It'll probably unlayer itself and come into love, probably, right? Because there's very deep fear. Fear of humiliation, fear of dying, fear of pain. There's a lot of that. We all have that. We're all the carrier of it because we're in a time system in our reality where we accumulate things. And so we don't want to, out of our conditioning, don't want to see that happen again. But if we take that salt, even though it's real salty in the sink water, and we throw it into the lake, it's there, but we don't taste it because there's a larger context from which our fear is seated. We're afraid because we don't want to hurt ourselves. That's pretty noble. But something more dominant, something more important than fear, than trying to treat our nervous system with calming down or coping. Something more important outgrows the fear. And a larger part of us from which we generate a different a source from which we begin to operate out of. We operate out of a heart that begins to open if you let it. Of organizing our lives around what we deeply care about. What would that do? What would happen if you organized your life, if you managed your choices around what really deeply mattered to you? You might be saying, but wait, JD, I'm selfish. No, you're not. To stay true to yourself is a choice. And desire means desire. It means of the king, of the soul. So desire means you're reaching into your aspirations, a much deeper urge that by nature is so much you that you would be in denial to say it doesn't matter. And when you identify what really matters, you come into this moment with that awareness. And what you'll notice is suddenly something in reality will start to turn in your favor because that intention, that aim that you have is at work. I don't know how that works, but it just does. And as you're working from it, suddenly you decide to follow a little impulse of something you notice, and boom, it follows, and wham, the situation starts to turn up into almost a so favorable direction as if it lined up, as if something was aware of you. That's what happens when we put our intention at the center of our attention. Synchronicities can emerge. That doesn't suggest that we expect them. It means that we're okay with them and that there's possibilities. So what does it mean to bring the walls down? To bring those walls down means to not be so preoccupied with your identity, but to really look out at the world and notice that separation between your identity you impose on it, that everything is who you are, what you own is who you are. We don't need to link our identities. We don't need to marry our identity to what we're doing. Otherwise, we can't learn from life and make it as a teacher. We can't see how reality is really coming from the future, and it's everything that's needed in this moment from the future. And if we let ourselves surrender to it, and we hang with it long enough, and we stay with it long enough, and we act from it, we begin to sense the alignment with the internal, the deep, deep intention. These two places, this eclipse. The intention, the attention. The intention, the attention. This is where it needs to meet. Present moment, awakening, keen awareness, what's happening now. It's like this. Intention. This is what I want to create. This is what I want to have happen. And you hold those two juxtaposed to each other, and when you do, something in nature is summoned. Something comes to your favor. It's a template in nature. I think it's a great, probably the greatest asset that we have to form things this way, to establish our lives this way in a more creative process, a generative space.